today we have an important announcement. We are announcing the Higher Education Transparency Act of 2011. This measure represents yet another step in that we're trying to take to make our state government more transparent, more accountable. I'd particularly like to thank all of the higher education leaders who are with us today. I'm going to introduce them all to you in just a moment. These higher education leaders who are here and many others from around the state who support the Higher Education Transparency Act deserve real credit for putting this transparency initiative in motion. Because for this to be effective, we need their full support on this. And these leaders have welcomed this with open arms. They've worked hand in hand with members of the House on creating this added level of public scrutiny to how your tax dollars are being spent. Under the Higher Education Transparency Act of 2011, our state colleges and universities will be required to post online a monthly register of all of their expenditures and the dollar amount spent. And when we say all, we mean all. There is no cap in the House's plan exempting expenditures under a certain amount. It's every dollar and every item. In these difficult budget times, every dollar is important. And we need to make sure that our spending priorities are in order. This monthly online registry will be prominently displayed by our state's colleges and universities on their official websites for the public to see. Spending accountability is a major issue, especially given these tight budget conditions. Every tax dollar our government spends should be accounted for. This online higher education registry of every single item, every single check written, is an important step in making that happen. To begin working on this right away, we plan to pre-file the Higher Education Transparency Act of 2011 before January's legislative session. With another tight budget year ahead of us, we must ensure that every tax dollar is being spent wisely. A greater focus on core spending functions at the institutional level is a crucial cost-saving tool. This will help us to address budget shortfalls without having to raise taxes, and it will help us to protect the job-creating tax cuts that we previously passed into law. The Higher Education Transparency Act of 2011 will make our state's institutions of higher learning more accountable as taxpayers and will make certain that core functions are being preserved. All of these folks are here supporting this act because they all want to make sure that we bring a higher level of accountability to our institutions of higher learning and give taxpayers the ability to see every expenditure online that the colleges and universities adopt. For a couple words about this, let me introduce to you our chairman of the Education Committee in the South Carolina House of Representatives, Chairman Phil Owens.
Thank you, Speaker Harrell. Ladies and gentlemen, a highly educated workforce is critical as we continue to attract top 100 companies to South Carolina and to improve our state's quality of life. Our higher education institutions, research universities, comprehensive teaching institutions, technical colleges, and regional campuses are playing a very important role in reaching the goal of making South Carolina one of the most educated states and supplying the kind of educated and skilled employees required in today's knowledge-based economy. So it's only fitting that our citizens have the maximum amount of information in terms of how our public colleges and universities are spending their financial resources. With the bill being introduced, higher education institutions will be operating under transparency terms similar to those currently required of other state agencies. Our House leadership and our higher education leaders recognize that public institutions function most responsibly when citizens have confidence in these institutions. The Higher Education Transparency Act will lend to the public's understanding and knowledge of how our colleges and universities do business. And I think that that's something I believe will benefit all of us. And so I thank you for that opportunity. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our House Majority Leader, Representative Kenny Bingham.
Thank you, Phil and Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen, appreciate the opportunity to be here today. This piece of legislation that's before us highlights the House Republicans' commitment to transparency across all of state government. 2 years ago, we passed very tough on-the-record voting requirements for ourselves. And then we approved a state law that would apply to both the House and the Senate. Last year, we expanded the requirements for electronic reporting for campaign contributions, and the House Republicans remain committed to ensuring that the taxpayers across our state have a bigger say in how their hard-earned dollars are spent. As legislators, we are entrusted by the public to make difficult decisions on where the tax dollars are spent, and it's our biggest responsibility as elected officials. As the speaker said just a moment ago, we are facing very difficult budget times. The state's colleges and universities are a large portion of our state budget, and it is essential that we know how their dollars are spent and that the public knows how their dollars are spent so they will know that they're being spent wisely. Transparency, once again, will be one of our caucus's top agenda items this legislative session. And this piece of legislation fits perfectly with our larger effort to open more windows into your state government.